Hello, welcome to Maria Hamilton. Could you please share your job title again?
Certainly, I'm Associate Design Director, and I'm in charge of the world.
Of Warcraft.
An absolute treat to be talking to you. We've just had a bit of time to play on the alpha. We've seen the presentation that's going to go with releasing that. We have huge questions, and what we really want to talk to you about today is the narrative of the War Within and of the World Soul Saga as well, because you're approaching this expansion a bit unlike any other expansion that you've ever done, I guess, when you've got this whole arc of 3 expansions in mind. How does that change how you approach designing for one particular expansion?
Well, when we sat down to think about what we wanted the World Soul Saga to be, we realized we had a very large story to tell. And we had a lot of pieces that we wanted to pull in from previous expansions, things we had set up, Giant Sword, for example. And the more we looked at it, the more we thought, we can probably tell this story best if we do it as a trilogy. And we figure out what the individual expansions will be, so you have a satisfying arc within that individual expansion, but we also have this overarching arc. So we have this arc that goes over the entire World Soul Saga. So that was new for us, and it meant that we could actually sit down and figure out pacing, foreshadowing, things like that have been a little trickier in the past, and how we could use our prologues before our patches to help us remind players, introduce characters that they may not recall, and so forth. So it's actually very exciting for us, and we're very busy trying to do them all simultaneously.
Yeah, it's really exciting for us as players as well, because like you say, we have never been able to look ahead several expansions at a time. It's always been a kind of great surprise, and well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of surprises waiting for us. Do you think the World of Warcraft community is ready to follow a story for 6 years, right?
I think that we will have a story in each expansion that is engaging and entertaining, and is giving you a part of the story, setting up certain elements that will resolve later, as well as the story that spans a longer period of time. We are planning to, provide these expansions a little faster than we have in the past. So I wouldn't swear to 6 years if you asked me. It might be quicker than that. But the hope is that by building it as a trilogy, we have people looking forward to the next installment. And because we're working on all of them right now, we're at different stages of all of them, we're pretty sure we can get the pacing right, so that you feel that, okay, we're building again, and have those moments. So yes, we that's what we're aiming for. And to be honest, Chris has got some really great visionary stuff in mind. We work with Chris a lot, all the time, really. And it's wonderful to have him kind of holding the overall vision as we figure out the details and how we're going to build it, and how we're going to make it fun for players.
Are there any challenges that you didn't expect that have cropped up in sort of approaching a trilogy like this?
No, I think the biggest challenge always is continuity. So we expected that. When we build any expansion, we see, because we assign people to work on zones, and the zone stories, we always see dips when we transition between them. We want to make sure that that's a more consistent thing, and so we keep an eye on it. With whole expansions, we expect certain elements of continuity, to be challenging as well, and communication. Communication is very hard, surprisingly hard. It's one of the most difficult things to do in games, is make sure all the right people know all the right things at the right time. Very hard. So for us, that was a challenge we knew was going to happen. But because, again, we're working on all of them at once, I have a lot of meetings, lots and lots of meetings, to make sure we're all talking to each other, and what we're setting up in the War Within can pay off in the appropriate place.
Without going into details, the kind of thing that crops up in my mind must be if a plan changes, something changes in the War Within, and you have to go to people who are working on Midnight and go, you can't do that anymore, I'm really sorry, because of this thing we just changed. Has that happened at all at any point? Or
it has happened a little bit, but it's less, because, like, for right now, for Last Titan, we have the art team going nuts, right? Like we're getting just phenomenal concept art and phenomenal attempts to understand what these environments need to look like and what these creatures need to look like. And then that group is very busy with that, but they're sharing that out with the rest of us. And then for Midnight right now, the world builders and world artists are very hard at work there, building out maps, getting that ready for people to roll in, start spawning creatures, start building quests. So they're busy working on that. And we want to make sure they're building spaces we can use, that go along with our story. And sometimes we're like, ooh, we changed our mind. Where we said we wanted the thing, well, we want a different thing. Is that okay? And generally speaking, it's possible. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, okay, we'll use that thing then. And then, of course, with the War Within, we're finishing things up so we can get it ready and get it out there to you.
I know the answer to this question, but I just love asking it for people in your position and similar positions. Do you know the ending of the World Soul Saga right now?
I do.
See, it's just very exciting. I love that. In some past expansions or patches even, it hasn't always felt like that's been an answer there. So that's just, it's something that I know WoW players love to hear.
We know where we're starting.
Yeah.
We know what stakes we want to set up, and we know where we're ending, and we know what the outcome is. We know what that is, and that's very clear. We have a backbone already established of, these are moments that are very important, that are going to help drive the story, going to help introduce new enemies and new friends. These are ones where we're going to conclude those arcs, so we're plotting it out very carefully. And like I said, we have the luxury of getting the pacing.
A lot of our questions changed today. Once we got onto the alpha and saw some very bold storytelling choices or narrative choices that have been made right at the very beginning of the War Within. By now, when people are watching this, it will be common knowledge that Dalaran has apparently been destroyed. Khadgar is not looking great for him on the alpha at the moment, what we've been able to play. So were you trying to make a statement at the beginning of the World Soul Saga by doing that?
Yes, we want to make sure that players understand the risk. They want to understand who the enemies are and why we are pursuing them. The introduction, which you won't be able to play until we launch, is going to provide a lot more detail around what has happened there. But because of where we start and because we wanted to get feedback, it was going to be very obvious that something has gone horribly awry. So we were really looking forward to seeing people's comments and what people speculate has occurred. But yes, we wanted to come out of the gate swinging, so we did.
That was, and that is going to be the intro rather than the pre-patch that kind of sets that up. It's kind of impossible when you see a beloved player hub be affected like that, not to think of Teldrassil and the way that BFA started, and not to be reminded of some of the controversy that caused and that still exists in the community today, I think. Was that in your mind when you were planning this, and how is it different?
Oh yes, I mean, we had lengthy conversations about how this wasn't the same, how this was not sort of one race taking the hit here, how players would likely react to having this wonderful sort of neutral place that we have where we can go and meet each other and hang out. We talked a lot about it and what the risks were there, and we think that it ultimately is worth it. It's a place that everyone can feel lost for simultaneously, because we all lose when Dalaran goes down. So yeah, I mean, it was intentional, it was calculated, and we do not want to repeat the feelings that happened with Teldrassil. So yeah, we talked about it a lot.
And are those kind of stakes something we should expect from the rest of the saga and from War Within?
Oh yes.
Like anything can happen sort of thing?
I think you should feel anything can happen. Because anything can happen.
Awesome. I've got, this is a very strange question. I am a huge fan of Xal'atath being a Shadow Priest, and it's given me such immense pleasure to see her being put in a more kind of central position in the story. I really wanted to get as much out of the Xal'atath story and her influence on the story as possible. Should I be playing Season of Discovery?
I'm not sure, actually. I think we will be making sure that other people understand who she is. Shadow Priests have a bit of an advantage in having had a certain relationship there already. But that's not core to what's happening, so I don't know that it's critical.
Okay.
She's, she's up to something, and it's very definite what there's something going on there, but it's not altogether clear what. And that's part of the mystery of what her involvement is, and really who she's serving. Is she serving herself, or is she serving someone else? And the hope is that any player joining up will be okay without having had that background. It's actually kind of a philosophy that we're pursuing, which is that you don't need to go do other things or play other things or read other things. You just need to play this game and this expansion to understand what's going on.
That's really good to know. Having said that, I am a priest player, and I do also from BFA have the Eye of N'Zoth. So I'm in a situation where I have the Blade of the Black Empire in my bags, and when I'm in an Azeroth, the Eye still shows up and whispers when you go into certain zones and things. Again, thinking back to BFA, where you had the choice to join Sylvanas or Saurfang, is that something that you could take inspiration for when it comes to Xal'atath and her interactions with people who, do feel, obviously she's a baddie, but that's kind of why we like her, right? An affinity to her as a character. And
is she a baddie?
Well, I mean, not obviously not. She's my lady, but
I mean, in one sense, she is an absolute baddie.
Yeah, but I mean, could there be a player choice, for want of a better word, element to how we approach Xal'atath?
I mean, I think throughout the course of the War Within, you'll have an opportunity to learn a bit more about her motives, maybe. If you're paying really close attention, you might get some foreshadowing as well. But a choice whether to help her or not help her, I don't know if that actually matters in a way.
Are there other can we look forward to other instances of that in the game? I mean, back with choosing to be a Sylvanas loyalist or not, it was really nice to have kind of player agency in that way. Is that something we can look forward to?
Yeah, we like to do that. I'm a big RPG player, and I love providing choice. I like choice that pays off. I like your story has changed somewhat. Obviously, in a shared world, it's a little harder than a single-player RPG to really pay that off. And there's always the risk that you've diverged so far now, it's very hard to get everybody back to the same place and continue paying it off. Because I think there's a commitment. If we give you a choice and we say, you're going to get some special content that goes along with that choice, we need to carry it all the way through the saga. So it's something we think about pretty seriously if we're going to do it, but I wouldn't say we're not going to do it either.
Excitement towards the Earthen as an allied race and as a race maybe hasn't reached the peaks that it does with maybe some other new races and what have you that are introduced. I guess because a lot of people look at them and go, oh, we've kind of seen that with Dark Irons or something. What do you like about the Earthen that makes them exciting to you?
I actually think the Earthen are different than most people are imagining in terms of what matters to them, and also what sort of abilities that they're going to have as a race. They are made of stone, and there are some very specific sorts of things that are related to being made of stone that make them quite different. I'm really excited about there's like I don't know what it's going to be called, but there's a surge ability that draws upon your favorite Azurite, and you can have this Azurite surge, and I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool racial. I quite like it. I like the story as well, for those that are role players. Because you have the three different groups and different perspectives on things, you have opportunity to role play pretty nerdily if you want to in that area. And as you go through the campaign and as you unlock the allied race, you'll learn about each of those specific ones and maybe feel an affinity for one of them or for none of them, and be a new kind of Earthen to go out and explore the world. So. And
last question, because I know we're running out of time. The ending of the last raid in Dragonflight, where the Dragonflights are empowered by Azeroth, there seemed to be a very strong implication that it wasn't the power of a Titan that was empowering them, and there's been a lot of speculation in the community as to whether the game was telling us that perhaps Azeroth isn't a Titan or not. Is there a clarification that you can give us there, or is that purposely vague?
I cannot tell you that.
Sounds good to me. I mean, that's actually a really good way to end.
That's a great way to end.
Thank you. This has been like a really lovely interview. Thank you for just giving such thoughtful answers, and it's a pleasure to talk to you about it.
And thank you for looking after kind of the world of Warcraft. It's so, I guess, reassuring to know that obviously there are people doing it, but that someone has kind of a holistic view of the story of the world, which is itself a character. It's just a pleasure speaking with you.
I think the world is the most important character, but that's just me.